It's time for another top 5. So here are 5 ways a pro's bike is different to yours. As always, if you want to see more content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe and click that little bell icon so that every time we upload a video, you get a notification. There are many ways you can emulate a pro, like wearing the same clothes, using the same shoes, and even the same shower head as Peter Sagan. And while we can wholly recommend trying to replicate his beautifully thick golden hair, one thing we wouldn't recommend is trying to replicate his riding position. Pros spend a lot of time riding their bikes. They also spend a lot of time working on their core and flexibility to ride those bikes in incredibly extreme positions. There are many examples, but Adam Hansen and the now retired Ryder Hesjedal spring to mind when it comes to riding positions that would kill a mere mortal. Look at the stem length and drop of those bars, not something we'll be trying to replicate anytime soon. You might think that turning pro means you get the absolute best equipment and get exactly what you want when it comes to bikes. The reality is quite different. To a sponsor, a professional rider is simply a peddling advert. They want to see them at the front of races, and crucially, they want to see them always using their products. The most recent example of kit gone bad was the now defunct Aqua Blue Sport Team. They caused headlines in 2018 when they started riding the Strada road bike from their sponsors 3T. Crucially, it came with a 1x specific drivetrain, which was claimed to offer a similar range to a traditional double setup and be simpler to live with. As we now know, the reality wasn't quite as rosy, with many of their riders complaining about the range and performance of the drivetrain. There are exceptions to this rule though, namely shoes and saddles, as pros can be sensitive to changes in their equipment setup. But fear not, as a bit of black marker pen is an easy way to rub out the brand name on a saddle, and some thin overshoes hide any non-sponsor correct shoe infractions with ease. The life of a pro can seem glamorous, but despite all the sun, adulation and Instagram followers, there are some occupational hazards most people don't have to deal with in their day-to-day office jobs. We're talking about crashes. Not only do they hurt, but they can also ruin a race through a broken bike part or untimely mechanical. Just imagine, you spent the whole year building up to the tour, 20 hours of grueling training a week, then it all goes up in smoke due to an unlucky crash. Fortunately, there are ways to mitigate potential damage, and one trick you'll often see on pro bikes is using a far stronger direct mount or custom derailleur hanger. Derailleur hangers on ordinary bikes are sacrificial and are designed to break easily in a crash. This is because it's much cheaper to break a mech hanger than smash your rear mech or frame to bits. Pros don't need to worry about this, as there's a spare bike waiting for them on their team car. So it's much better to have a stronger direct mount mech hanger, which will, in theory, also improve shifting and put up with a few more of the inevitable bumps and knocks that happen during racing. As it seems with a lot of new tech within the bike industry, and particularly on the road side, many people weren't happy when electronic gears first hit the mainstream with the release of Shimano's Dura Ace Di2 group set. There were concerns about battery life, people sabotaging the electric signals, and hey, it's something new, and we're suspicious of new things. As we now know, electronic gears have been a broadly positive influence on the bike industry, and nowhere is this seen more than in the pro peloton. How many pro bikes now use electronic gears? On the World Tour, it looks to be all of them, and suspect this won't be changing anytime soon. Why? Because they're better. Simple as that. Once set up, they require less maintenance, and if you're a really lucky World Tour mechanic, your team will be running SRAM Axis group sets, which means no more internally routed gear cables to deal with. A pro bike is superior in many ways. They're kept in perfect working condition, often have fancy tyres that we can't buy, and come in striking custom paint jobs. But one place they're definitely not superior is in the weight department. Many moons ago, the UCI set a minimum weight limit of 6.8 kilos on all bikes in the pro peloton. This was purely down to the safety concerns of carbon bikes at the time, as nobody wanted a feather-light carbon bike disintegrating when they were doing 100 km an hour on a descent. Fast forward to 2020 and bike tech has moved on somewhat. We now have bikes available to buy which easily dip below the UCI's minimum weight limit. However, those poor pros aren't so lucky, and are still bound by the dare we say it, anachronistic 6.8 kilos. On occasion, they've even needed to add small weights or heavier parts to make sure bikes hit that minimum limit. This means we can easily go out and buy a bike lighter than any Grand Tour winner. Then surely it's only a matter of time before you'll be climbing just as fast as said Grand Tour winner, because we all know the bike is what really makes the difference. Now that may or may not be true, but it's good to know there's one part of the cycling spectrum where you can beat the pros, even if it might end up costing you all of your worldly possessions. What do you think of our list? Did we get it right, or should we have picked something else? As always, let us know in the comments, don't forget to like and subscribe, and click that little bell icon so that every time we upload a video, you get a notification.